Joining me now is Kash Patel. Kash Patel, you served as Chief of Staff for the Defense Department. You worked in various roles under the Trump administration. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for being here today. We love having you.
No, thanks for having me live at CPAC, and thanks for having an amazing show and having the courage to put out the truth. It's not easy to do that.
It certainly
we
isn't.
appreciate what you're doing.
There's so many things I want to talk to you about. I want to first start, you knew Trump, you spoke with Trump, and I recently heard that Trump stated that if he were president, that he would effectively end the war within 24 hours, he says, between Ukraine and Russia. Can you speak to that statement just a little bit?
Sure.
And tell me, what is it that the current administration is doing so wrong that's keeping us where we are?
Well, the second question might be a lengthy answer, but we'll try to keep it short. On the first one, what he, and having worked with President Trump on so many international matters, what he means is President Trump had the ability and the belief that you need to have relationships with everyone, be it Kim Jong-un or Xi Jinping or Vladimir Putin. You don't have to like them, but you have to make them respect you because you're the commander-in-chief and you represent the United States of America. And they took his calls. And that's what he's saying. The stark difference now is Joe Biden can't get on the phone with Xi Jinping. Vladimir Putin hasn't talked to Joe Biden in I don't know how long. Our Defense Department leadership can't get on the phone with their counterparts in China. And so when President Trump says he'd have a peace negotiation in 24 hours, I believe that because if he were commander-in-chief, they know they need to listen to him, at least get in the same room together and say, hey, can we hash this thing out without war? And that's the ultimate victory. And now all of a sudden the Democrats are the party of, the war machine, which is, another conversation. But I think that's the statement that Donald Trump knows he can make and deliver on because he did it in the past. And look, Afghanistan's a perfect example. He asked me to lead his Afghan withdrawal. And he said, let's do it smartly, diplomatically, based on intelligence and evidence. Let's not give up key pieces of terrain, Bagram. Let's not let out the terrorist who blew up American soldiers that Joe Biden let out. We had him under lock and key. These were things we were proud to never have one U.S. soldier casualty in the Afghan withdrawal because we knew it was a long process. They came in and said, it doesn't matter what you guys did, we're just going to do the opposite. And you've seen the disastrous, most costly of consequences, 13 American lives.
Absolutely. And, we here at AMAC, our members voted Donald Trump as their man of the year in 2021.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, they understood that he was a businessman, and he understood that in business, if you fail at your job, or if you've got somebody responsible for a certain area of the company and they don't do their job, they don't get promoted. They get kicked out, they get moved away. And so he approached things in such a way, which I think was very smart. We are desperate for that here in America. Yeah. Now, so many other things to talk about. You've got an awesome website, Fight with Cash.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what you're doing today.
Well, one of the things President Trump taught me was you have to take your time in and see how you can use it on the outside to help others. So we established fightwithcash.com with a K. It's a 501c, it's a foundation, it's a charity. What we do is we raise money for active duty service members, law enforcement, tuition assistance, education programs, and whistleblowers, and legal defense funds. And last year we gave away over $100,000. And this year our goal is to give away $1 million. And it's not us. It's we want to do it together. So fightwithcash.com, all the content is free. If you see merchandise on there, all of that, every dollar goes to the foundation. No board member has a salary. Everything goes out the door. And that's the biggest thing I'm working on because it's the most, yes, it's fun, if I'm being honest.
And
of course
rewarding.
It's fun, sure. But it's good to get other people in because everybody's always like, how do you do this? How do you help? Well, here's one way. You don't have to do that one, but here's an idea. And if you want to be a part of it, go to fightwithcash.com and join up.
Excellent. Thank you for that. There are so many threats now that we're seeing here in America. One of my greatest concerns is what's happening at the southern border.
Yeah.
And I'm concerned about the fentanyl that's coming over the border, killing over 100,000 people. This is a huge crisis that we're facing. Yeah. Can you speak at all to the fentanyl, and Chinese fentanyl specifically, and what our listeners ought to know?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my roles in the Trump administration overseeing counterterrorism was also overseeing the counter-narcotics operations that President Trump was leading. And he led them both in America and in Mexico and in China. The fentanyl wasn't flowing in under the Trump administration because President Trump had tariffed the Chinese. He had dispelled diplomats when the CCP overstepped, and Russia. And he had the ability on the world stage to garner that respect where they said, we can't flood those streets anymore. Now you have an administration who actually is proud of the fact that they say and they accept China's answer that they're not providing fentanyl into the United States like that. What they're doing is, we just provide the Mexican drug cartels with the ingredients to make the cake. It's the most absurd deflection, the most tragic deflection, because many of these people killed are children. And the Chinese and the drug cartels are in it together, fashioning this drug in the shape of candy, so it's more appealing to 12 and 13 and 14-year-olds. And they don't care about the consequences because this administration doesn't care about the border. President Trump, rightly so, in one of his policy speeches said, I'm putting the death penalty on the table for kingpin leaders in the drug cartels. That is a deterrent.
That's a deterrent.
They don't want him back in charge. But that's the stark difference on a, from a border perspective on Trump versus Biden.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So I want to talk a little bit about your book. I believe it's coming out this March. Is that right?
Well, we're working on it. So the book's done. It's called Government Gangsters, and it's available for pre-sale, Amazon, governmentgangsters.com. Excuse me, allergy season.
That's quite all right, yeah.
And what we tried to do is lay out a roadmap of how the deep state operates and where they operate and how we can defeat them. And President Trump has called the book a roadmap to winning back the White House and restoring the DOJ, the FBI, the DOD, the CIA to work for the American people. The problem is, we list every government gangster in the book by name and how they failed us and how we can solve that problem. But the manuscript is being held up by this government because I was in government, so most people don't know you have to submit it back to the government.
Interesting.
So it's being reviewed. It's looking more like April or May, but we're going to get it out, and I encourage everyone to check it out, Government Gangsters.
Government Gangsters.
You got to give everybody a roadmap of, if you believe in something, you need to put pen to paper and stand for it and say and defend it. And I believe I can in that book.
And this is so important because we know that China would love to see our institutions just crumble from within. And already people are losing faith in those public institutions. So a roadmap is fabulous. We're going to keep our eye out for the book. Tell us about your future. What do we have? What do you have planned?
The only thing I can see is a week or two in front of me at a time. And it's, you take your Q's and A's and your lead from, my leader, which is Donald Trump. And, I'm a national security, defense, intel, law enforcement guy. I'm not really the political genius by any means. So I try to stay involved and educate Americans on that front, on what worked, what's failing. And literally the only thing that I try to do more than anything else is just put out the truth. Doesn't matter what it is, you have to put it out there. And then you got to barrel through the fake news media who's going to say, no, that's a lie because you, under the Trump administration, were successful in defeating terrorism. You were successful in taking on the cartels. You were successful in bringing home American hostages and taking on Russia and China and Iran. They don't want that narrative, not just because it was true, but because it happened under Trump. So my mission is just to stay on his accomplishments, on his leadership, and show America this is the difference in our country in 2 years. And in 18 months or so, you're going to have another opportunity to either send Donald Trump back to the White House or have 4 more years of this. And on policy, there's no better policy than the America First agenda outlined by President Trump.
That's right. And anyone else who's running, if they're running, those are the policies that they're going to run on to, which Donald Trump has done such a good job outlining. Kash Patel, an honor to have you. Thank you for your time, and good luck. God bless you. You're doing important work.
Thank you so much.
And we're grateful for you.
Appreciate
you
having
so
me.
much.
Thanks.